Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Simply Nerdy. This is your host, Steven, and I'm joined today by the whole panel, and we are here talking about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This is the secret project number 3 of Brandon Sanderson's Year of Sanderson.
Ooh.
And it has been an awesome year, you guys. And I know that Secret Project 4 is available. I've already finished it. We're a little late on this video, but we wanted to make sure everyone could read the books at their own pace, so we're not going to rush anybody through this thing. And we had so many other wonderful things to talk about with Nintendo. But anyway, let's get into it. So, what are overall impressions?
It might be my favorite so far.
Whoa!
I haven't started number 4, but I liked Yumi and the Nightmare Painter a lot.
I liked it too. For me, Tress and Yumi were pretty similar. Like Tress might be slightly above for me, but they're comparable. I liked them both a lot.
Yeah, and to be honest, Yumi might be getting a little more weight because I read it more recently. You know, it's been like, what, Tress came out March-ish, right? So,
yeah, something.
Been a while now.
Yeah, I would probably agree with all that. I think I'm with David. I think I probably still hold Tress higher, but in a lot of ways, I really enjoyed. I don't know. I just felt like the story felt like it was delving a lot more into that, you know, the juicy Cosmere lore that I've come to enjoy more and more as he puts more and more into his books, and it felt like it had a lot of nice weight in terms of you know, like the overall Cosmere arc. I don't know how it's going to play out just yet, but anyway, no,
I have to admit, on the topic of like Cosmere connections, there's a character who I'm not gonna say because it might be spoilers.
We'll say it later.
Yeah, there's a character that I just find so fun. You know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not certain that Yumi isn't getting extra weight because it's more recent that I've like read it. However, I do feel like to a certain extent, I really identify with a lot of the like character struggles that they have. Cause like especially Painter, probably.
I was gonna say the same thing, Lisa.
I'm pretty awkward, and to be honest, like the whole thing about like him not knowing how to tell them and just, you know, just kind of falling apart on his own. I was just like, yeah, yeah.
I've done that.
Sorry, that you know, maybe that's vague enough. I don't know.
No, that's actually really good. And I'll just throw out my initial impression real quick, David. I'll let you go.
Yeah.
I too, I'm siding with David and Anthony on this one too. I loved this one. I loved it. Lisa, don't look at me like that. I love it.
No, just kidding.
That's fair. I'll take it. I still hold Tress above, but I think I'll put this one just under it. I really liked it, and for the same reasons you, Lisa, I can really connect with Painter, because I'm a people pleaser. I do not like to disappoint, and I can get myself in trouble sometimes. There were several scenes where people were talking trash on him. Actually, a lot of the time they're talking trash on him. I'm not saying that happened to me a lot, but I did get bullied in like grade school and middle school and most of high school. Like, I connected with Painter a lot. So, yeah. All right, David, you wanted to say something. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. I'm just agreeing. Like, Painter's character arc was, you know, he comes across first. You kind of see him how other people see him, right? Because you don't know any of the details of his life. You don't know his past struggles, his history. And so at the start of the book, he kind of comes across as this angsty loner.
Edgelord. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and but you learn his story, and it's just a fascinating character arc. I loved it. Later in the video when we talk about spoilers, I wanted to go into more detail about exactly what happens, because
yeah.
Ready to get into spoilers?
I'm going to say one more vague thing.
Okay.
The other thing that I really thought was like poignant in a sad way was kind of his experience of like pouring everything he had into this thing and then finding out that wasn't enough. Like you had to, you know, that people didn't value that. And that was just like, oh, so.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel for it. That too. Yeah. No, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we go into spoilers, I think it's worth talking about some of the inspirations that he had for this story that I think a lot of people picked up on. What I thought was fascinating, as soon as I started listening to this story, and before I knew, what it was inspired, some of the stories that it was inspired by, I was like, this plot immediately reminds me of the anime Your Name.
Yeah.
Everyone that's watched that. I was like, but it didn't feel like it was stealing from it. It just felt a similar premise, right? Some of the basic details of what was happening, right? And I was like, that's cool. That was a pretty cool movie. So as I went through the story, I was glad that it expanded way beyond that. It wasn't just this was the inspiration. I'm going to do this story, So
as I was reading, Emily was like, "Am I currently reading Your Name?"
Your Name?
AU? Anyway,
But let's say we're probably stepping into spoiler territory now, so let's just throw out that spoiler.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There was your spoiler warning.
Oh crap!
All right, do you want to start with spoilers?
Probably saying the anime is a bit of a spoiler, so maybe I should
basically. I mean, it was a pretty good sense of.
Yeah. So before we'll play,
the funny thing, you two bringing that up. So literally just a handful of weeks before Caitlin and I, my wife and I, started reading the book together, because we like to read out loud to each other and experience it at the same time. We had some friends who had us over, and we watched Your Name. And when we started reading the book, we're just like, wait, what?
What?
He actually lists it in like.
I know, and that's the funny thing is, when we finished the book and we were reading, I don't know if I was reading this part aloud to Caitlin, but I got to the acknowledgements and I was reading through some of his inspirations, and he didn't say it for a long time until I finally got to the last paragraph, and he said, "And then there's Your Name." And I'm like, I knew it. It had to say something, because it's very similar. But I guess maybe we need to spend some time talking about the book instead of Your Name to tell people why.
Yeah. One thing that I loved that is just kind of like a really like small thing in the book, I guess, but was like a big thing for me, was like, was the bamboo, the theme.
Yes.
The bamboo. I just like the fact that like the whole time it was kind of like at the start, it was just kind of like, bamboo works, So, why not do what works? And then like that one scene where I am going super out of order, but we'll get back. But just that one scene where like he like saves somebody's life. Was it Yumi's life? Whose life was it? I don't know. Somebody's life.
It was a random citizen.
Actually, it might have been when he was currently a cognitive shadow and Yumi was having her turn. But just like when the nightmare was coming and he just like made this brush and then painted bamboo or something. I don't know. Wasn't that what happened? I don't know.
Yes.
I think I know.
I loved it. I was just like,
it was awesome.
Yes! Bamboo works.
I love it.
The basic premise here is that Painter, his job, he lives in this world where it's always dark. Their only source of light are like these magic lines, right? These magic lines of light they've learned to harness, to like, for all of their technology. And he lives in this world that's kind of technological, a little bit of advanced. It's also seems heavily based on Asian cultures. I think his world is kind of heavily based on Japan. And then you have this other perspective for Yumi, and she's in a completely different place, right? Her world seems very, very strict, very ritualistic, and not nearly as advanced in technology. And just her life is so very different from Painter's. You have these two characters' perspectives, and then there's an event happens, they clash, their worlds get overlapped in some ways. And a big part of the plot is like trying to figure out, okay, why is this happening? Where are we?
Yeah. It was just really fun to see them interact and have to deal with each other at first. And they go from a whole, like we're going to clash and butt heads constantly, to then changing to, okay, how can I help solve your problem? How can you help solve my problem? And then it went to a romance. I was like, whoa. Okay.
One thing else that I really, really liked is that I feel like poetically, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but just like Yumi and Painter are a really good pair to like compare and contrast, because I feel like for Yumi, like she had a lot of pressure where everybody depended on her. If she messed up, like that was going to mess up things for everybody. And kind of as a contrast, Painter is alone. It felt like nothing that he did was important, you know? It's kind of like their situations were near opposites, and then they are able to together fix their opposite problems. Anyway.
Yes. But along with that, I want to build off that for a second. I also really liked that as they were helping solve each other's problems, they weren't trying to change anything about the other person. They were using the strengths that they brought to the table already. I'm going to change you. I mean, maybe they did it first, right? I'm going to teach you to do exactly the way I do it. But then they started to, see, they solve things a different way, but it gets the same result. Teach me your way. I'll teach you my way. And they didn't try to change each other. They built on each other's strengths, which is very refreshing.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And speaking of that, their backgrounds, I didn't get to this, but one of the inspirations Sanderson said was for the story was he inspired by Final Fantasy X. Specifically in that game, they have these characters.
Spoilers for Final Fantasy X.
For real, I better unplug it.
I'm not going to go into like the end game of Final Fantasy X or anything, but he said specifically how the characters have jobs. They have fantasy jobs, right? Occupations in this game. The main character in Final Fantasy X is kind of like this sports guy.
Sport man.
His job was to be an athlete or something, and then the main character, the girl character, her job was important, and in a lot of ways maybe similar to what Yumi had to do, where a lot of people depend on her. So as Sanderson said, he wanted to explore more in his stories, the idea of people having fantasy jobs that they have, like their day-to-day thing, but in a fantasy setting. And so Painter, his job, these nightmares come to life out of the darkness of his world. The only way to get rid of them, he has to like paint a picture that the creature, the nightmare then becomes the form of, right? And then they become not harmful anymore at that point.
He's basically forcing the stick to become not stick.
Exactly. But this is... Oh, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
We started making Cosmere references for...
I was going to go into that too, but David, what were you going to say before I put in my Cosmere reference?
Go to the Cosmere reference. I don't want to...
Okay. Hoid is narrating again in this book.
I really like Hoid's narrations. They're fun for me.
I totally agree with you.
I have to confess, I was at first pretty sure it wasn't him because it was so tonally different from Tress. But then eventually it became pretty clear it was him. And I'm like, I wonder if there's some sort of like message in that. Anyway, I was trying to figure that out.
Well,
I totally agree.
Master storyteller. He can.
I guess that's what I came to in the end. I was like, I suppose this is just par for the course, trend.
And as far as Hoid goes, I love how both Tress and this one, he's a sad state,
Yes, he is. He's always, he gets himself in the worst situations.
He's got
I love it.
Big misadventures. The funny thing about Hoid is more and more I feel like he's the Doctor Who of the Cosmere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh yeah.
He's not, the character isn't the same, but just his premise of like, he's this world hopper, traveling to places, telling stories, helping random people, and it's just fun. I just love that character has been connected through so many of the books, and my wife has been listening to some of the earlier Cosmere books, and I didn't even realize Hoid was in Mistborn. He was in Warbreaker.
Yep.
So I was like, I got it. And I was like, I didn't know he was there.
I don't remember who he is in those, but I think he was even in Elantris, so
yep.
Then at that point I'm like, he's everywhere. Yeah.
He's everywhere.
He's in the first book, he's everywhere.
In Mistborn and Warbreaker, he's mentioned by name.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they're like, our informant is named Hoid. Talk to him.
Whenever you hear anyone with a pointed nose, it's also Hoid. What do you guys think of Hoid's brand design?
That's the character I was talking about.
I thought so, Lisa. Yeah, I love design because we got a little bit of her personality in the Stormlight books, but nothing like this. This was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And are we using light weaving to change Design's form, or is it just the magic in this world where he can draw something and she becomes?
Well, I think that was like one of the reasons that he got design was so you could lightly, but I don't know.
No, right.
The science fiction's really got a physical form of some sort, so
That's true. But like, it kind of seems like the vibes I've gotten from other Cosmere books is that he's going around collecting types of investiture.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the point at the end of Tress, right? He wanted the investiture that the sorceress lady could only be tricked into giving.
Right.
And he got it. He's like, that's what I was here for. So,
Right.
Perfect. Yes.
We also saw a Fabrial being used off of Roshar.
I do have to say, the number of times that he started using terms that only make sense to people or, in the context of other books was really fun for me, because when we were first reading it, I was like, that sounds like a Fabrial. And then when she straight up calls it a Fabrial, I'm like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
He said that the gloves have kind of come off. Like before, he tried to be really discreet about Cosmere crossover stuff. And now he's like, we've gotten far enough along in the overall story that it's just, you're going to see this stuff more and more.
which I have been waiting for ever since I became a Sanderson fan. So I'm excited.
So let me ask you guys a question. Who is the villain in this story?
Is it AI?
I think it is. I think it's an awakened machine.
I just say that
Oh,
because
sounds like why to me.
you get to the end of the story and there's this strong, you find out this machine, right, has been,
Or is it the scholars?
keeping the problems going. Like it's just all of its programming, and something went wrong, and it's just continuing. And I forgot to mention this, like Yumi's job is her magic. I love this, by the way. Her magic system is stacking rocks.
I know. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, only Sanderson can make a magic system out of something like that. So,
If I had to do that, my ADHD would not be happy.
but I love. Yeah, I know.
I feel like I'd be kind of like Painter. With stacking rock.
So it's fascinating that both the magic systems for Painter and Yumi are based on art, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how the magic is stronger with the level of talent, perhaps, with the level of effort.
Yeah.
And so, like,
put in.
especially with like Yumi, the way she stacks rocks in careful patterns and designs, and it's difficult. You know, if somebody just goes and just stacks up a few rocks and they aren't balanced in impossible ways or anything like that, then they're not going to draw as much magic. So her dedication is what makes the magic more powerful for her.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing with Painter. So
I think probably the coolest part in the book, or at least one of the coolest parts in the book for me, Yumi's clash with class. Yumi went to class and it was awesome. Just kidding. Yumi's clash with the machine, just like it was. I loved it so much. I'm probably jumping ahead further in the story than I should, but like basically the fact that what the machine had done to her was what allowed her to overcome it. Like the fact that she had been forced to live her life over and over, honing her craft just to the extreme, is what allowed her to beat the machine. Like, I don't know, it was just so cool. I was just like, oh my gosh.
yeah, it's very true. Like, she was trapped in the same day, basically the same day over and over again, doing the same thing, getting better and better until it's like second nature, right?
Yeah.
And,
Who is it that said it, that she had so much investiture because of it?
yeah.
I don't remember who said that.
Design? I don't
There was a lot of, it was design. Yeah, she had a lot of investiture on her when she was over in Painter's world.
It was like return level. But
Yeah, level dang.
Which, I guess kind of makes sense because she,
technically returned.
yeah.
It does make sense. And, so this machine was built to kind of replace people. Like, oh, this job is of stacking rocks. A machine can do that, right? A machine doesn't have intent. It can't replace people for artistry. It can make it can automate it. It can automate the work, but it doesn't have greater power than an artist. That was kind of the villain in the end. You find out Yumi and Painter's worlds, they live on the same world.
Right? That blew my mind.
Yeah. That's when I was
I thought they were on different worlds the whole time.
That's when I was like flabbergasted.
Yep.
And I'll let you continue, David, but that's actually the point. So like part of the way through the book, I was thinking it was your name, and then one of them was like they were talking with each other and they were like, "Are we doing time travel?" I was like, "Oh, it's definitely not your name." Like if they said that and it's halfway through the book, it's not that.
I thought of Anthony. I was like, "Oh no, it's time travel, Anthony. Oh no."
Yeah. I love that.
But yeah, continue.
I love that it wasn't time travel. Time travel is too easy.
It was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
I do have to jump in and say I think probably one of my favorite things about this book was just how many times he led us to think he was following a trope only to subvert it. And I mean,
Yes.
I guess that's classic Sanderson for you. But there was just a couple times in this book when I was feeling like maybe he is going just a little bit more mainstream with this one. Because again, I thought, wow, this is definitely your name. But then there was just so many different ways that, I mean, first we thought it was a different planet. No, okay. Then he floated the idea of time travel, which, yeah, as a Santa fan, that's a pretty big
That's
red
the
flag. He said the thing, so it can't be the thing.
Yeah.
There was still a part of me that was sitting there being like, please no, please no. And then, that would have been 100% your name. Then when he, kind of pulled back the wool and he's like, yeah, it's the same world. And it was, the darkness is created by the Shroud of Souls created by the evil machine. And I don't know. It was a really fun... I wouldn't call it necessarily like my favorite twist of his. I feel like there's better ones out there, but it was very unexpected. And so that was a lot of fun.
I actually had to read it twice because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what I was hearing. I was listening to the audiobook. I was like, wait a minute. What? Wait. And then I explained the whole thing and I didn't get it. I was like, all right, rewind it.
I was going to say, I think overall, what I ended up liking most about the book is a lot of the messages. I feel like it was, at least that I got from it. I really liked how it kind of felt like, so we talked about earlier how in a lot of ways Painter's and Yumi's experiences felt like opposites of each other. And yet at the same time, it was this almost like they were experiencing the same thing in different ways, because both of them were dealing with loneliness, and they found their value in being together with other people, being with friends, making friends, finding, I don't know, like I just liked that it kind of felt like the story was saying, we're stronger together, and it doesn't matter what way we're alone. Each of us have our different way of experiencing loneliness, and our circumstances are different, but I liked how in both cases it was kind of them working together, like building each other up, and that it felt like a cool message. I felt like I had more I was going to say about that, but my mind's going blank. So I'll just say it's a nice message to see, especially when we live in such a divisive world now. It was fun to see, and it didn't like gloss over the icky parts of dealing with people. I mean, the part where Painter kind of, his history with his old friends came out, and we had to kind of deal with that and everything. Like dealt with the uncomfortableness of it, but I don't know. I liked how in the end it was still kind of an idea that everyone can be redeemed, and it comes in, I guess, trying to work together to better ourselves. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I think you are. I like that.
It makes sense to me.
I agree with you completely, Anthony. Like, that was something I loved about Painter's story. You find out exactly what happened with him and his friends, and it kind of seems like, well, no wonder. No wonder people don't like him if he did that, But then you learn to understand him even more. Details that other people weren't aware of, that they overlooked, and you're like, okay. I loved learning what actually happened with Painter, why he was where he is at,
Hmm.
And I also agree with what Anthony said, the message of no one is irredeemable, right? If you take time to understand each other, and we're better together. So I think that is one of the good messages, one of the great messages of the story.
One thing I really liked was the characterization of like the warden lady. I don't know, her like boss lady who's her servant.
Yeah.
But
Leah.
she's kind of really awful and manipulative, but like in the end you were able to see some more depth to her, and like I really liked that she ended up like choosing to help. So I don't know, I just kind of was like, because I feel like a fair amount of the books that I end up reading, it's just like you find the bad guy and they're always the bad guy and you're free to hate them to your heart's content. And with Leona, I was like, oh yeah, I hate her, and she deserves the worst punishment that this book could give her. And then it was just kind of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't think that like what she did in the end makes what she did in the beginning okay at all, but I still like that she did do the stuff she did at the end, I guess.
Yes. No, absolutely.
She's not the.
One-dimensional.
Yes, that's the one. That word I'm looking for. She's not a one-dimensional bad person, and she wasn't even the villain in the end.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you about that.
Yeah, I think another central theme of the book was that there's always more to a person than it appears. Painter seems like a horrible friend, and then you find out his reasons, and that doesn't make what he did okay, but it makes it clear that, his intent, and maybe that's one of the, because I know like intent is an important part of Sanderson's overall cause-mirror investiture systems. But I feel like it's not only a plot point, but also like a really strong message that the intent is something you need to find out before you can really understand a person. Painter did wrong by his friends, but he wasn't trying to. He was trying to protect them, and he didn't know how to do any differently. Leon was, I guess I don't understand why she felt she needed to, keep Yumi in seclusion like she did, but maybe her reasons were that their system of life, the preservation of society would be threatened by the machine, and she was right, so I think I liked how we're not justifying the wrong choices people did, but if you take the time to understand their reasons and you try to to be less judgmental and recognize intent, even as you tried to correct the wrongs, like that's a good message for our time.
100% agree.
So I guess one thing that I like, a saying I have that I feel like is like I use as a reminder for myself that I feel like applies here is kind of like it doesn't excuse their actions, but it can explain them a bit. Still need to do better and make reparations. Anyway.
Maybe one of the invitations of the book, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I enjoyed it as much as I did, is we all need this type of understanding extended to us. So why don't we be the ones to extend it in the first place?
What do you think of the ending? I know that there's a little bit of mixed feelings about the ending. Some people wish it was a bad ending.
No.
Some people wish it would have been like a bittersweet ending, I guess, is what and so some people thought the ending was sort of ruined by it not being a bittersweet.
I would have been angry.
Yeah.
Me too. I
would have been very angry.
I get that a lot of people are obsessed with the fact that, well, if everything has a happy ending, then it's just cheap, and I want to suffer.
Have you read Sanderson's books? Not all of them have happy endings, okay?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I feel like life is hard, and so when a book does a thing that makes me happy, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And also,
a lot of times people read to escape, not to have the realistic.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that means that all books that, have a different ending to make people think about stuff are bad. I feel like there's some utility there, but I feel like this ending wasn't even like bad objectively, like as I could have gone for the bittersweet and that would have been objectively better, because to be honest, like when Painter was able to paint her into existence, basically I was like, this is what he's been working on his whole life, is being able to do this.
Yeah, it worked. It goes with what you said about how she was able to defeat the machine.
Yeah.
Yes, they were both honing their craft and their magic, and that's what allowed them to do these things. You know, it wasn't what you get in a lot of typical stories where, oh, I just wanted it really bad.
Yeah, exactly. And
my magic tear fell on them.
fixed everything.
Of course.
Well, and also like kind of circling back around to bamboo, the fact that yes, bamboo works a lot of the time, but he had honed his craft to the point where he was a master of whatever he wanted, and for this case, he didn't turn her into bamboo. So
yeah, so I love the ending. To be honest, I would have been in a funk if it had ended bittersweet. So.
I wanted Yumi to be able to actually have
her own life.
You listen to her story, you want her to have a chance.
Let's give it a rating. Anthony, you want to go first?
I'd probably throw it an 8.5.
There you go.
9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I would say it's at least a 9 out of 10 for me, maybe like 9.3 or 9.5. I don't know. I liked it a lot, so.
And I'd give it an 8. But no, we absolutely loved this book. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and if you connected to the characters as well as we did. If you enjoyed that sweet ending, or if you're one of those bitter people, let us know down in the comments below.
Which is valid. It's valid.
We will be better back. I'm just kidding. Pour some pepper on that. And then what else? What else, guys? Oh, of course, subscribe so you can see more of this. We're going to do a review on the new The Sunlit Man here soon. When we actually read it. I'm just kidding. And then
I'll eat it.
There you go. You'll eat it up. You will eat it. Trust me, when you start going to the stop. And then, so stay tuned for that. And then, for anything else Cosmere related, you're in the right place. And until next time, guys,
keep it nerdy.